This is Steve Laffey's Fixing America. And now, broadcasting live from the Fixing America Command Center in Fort Collins, Colorado, here is your host, Steve Laffey.
Hey, good afternoon, America. Steve Laffey. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We're here. It's the day before Thanksgiving, November 27th. We got something unusual. I'm dressed in some farmer clothes, and my son's in a suit. This is Stephen Jr. Stephen, what do you think about Thanksgiving? You looking forward to tomorrow?
Yes.
What do you like about Thanksgiving?
I like it when we eat the turkey on Thanksgiving night.
You do? What's Thanksgiving about to you? What do you like about it? What's the meaning of Thanksgiving to you? You go tell the audience.
When giving thanks to God and the pilgrims.
They came over. What did they want? They wanted
Liberty.
Liberty. They wanted liberty, right. They wanted religious liberty. All right. Well, that's good, man. Hey, listen, let's let your sister get in here for a second, okay?
Okay.
We only have 2/6 of the Laffey clan. Don't go running off now. This is Audrey. Audrey, what do you want to tell people about Thanksgiving? You wrote a little speech. Go ahead. Give them a little speech about Thanksgiving. That's fine.
Thanksgiving is about Jesus and liberty and pilgrims.
And the
Indians and God. We give thanks to Him by praying and reading His Word and the Bible. And we celebrate Thanksgiving every year. The Indians help the pilgrims and in their new land. And the pilgrims invited the Indians to a feast, and it is a tradition we do every year.
Every year. What do you like? We're having a bunch of people over tomorrow, right?
Right.
Yeah, how many people? We have 15 people, I think.
I think it's 16.
16 people. Are you getting ready? Are you going to make some stuff tonight? What kind of cakes and everything are you going to make?
I think we're having raspberry pie and others.
Raspberry cream? All right, well...
I like raspberry pie.
I want to ask you about one thing I got here. It's a little secret I take out here. I may be the only person left in America, but do you guys like the cranberry sauce I make?
Yes.
Out of the can?
Yes.
And we slice it?
Yes.
That settles the argument. All right, you guys get going. Say goodbye to everybody in America.
Bye.
All right, shut the door on the way out.
Yes, sir.
I'll see you in about 50 minutes. Well, those are 2/6 of the Laffey kids. Some are studying, some are out, one's sick, and I'm glad we had them. You never know what the kids are going to say, you know, even though you try to teach them. But we got a lot to talk about. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. The kids are going, it's just me and you. And it's the day before Thanksgiving. And I tell you, it's a great holiday. But I think we really have lost. Much of America now has forgotten what the real purpose of Thanksgiving is. And it's not the cranberry sauce. And we can laugh and joke, and we've got a lot of things to talk about. In fact, in the first segment, we'll go over some of this stuff, some of my pet peeves, I guess, about Thanksgiving. And the second segment, we'll come back with what the presidents have said recently about Thanksgiving. But I just enjoy it. I love having people over. So we're not from Colorado, so we got some families coming over, a couple of buddies coming over who don't have families with them, and it's just going to be, it's going to be a fun time. It's one of those days where you just stop and relax. But I just hope I remember tomorrow to get up and say my prayers and just thank God, because when I start thinking about the show and I start talking about it, it really is. It's far beyond whether we're going to have jelly cranberry sauce. Although I must tell you, I am this is sort of Thanksgiving also brings you back to like your childhood and what's important to you and the things that you remember. Everybody has Christmas memories, has Thanksgiving memories, and so forth. And I think I'll always do the jelly cranberry sauce because I didn't grow up with any money, and so this is what we had. We didn't have fresh cranberries like we'll have some tomorrow. And so for me, it takes me back to thinking about my father too. My father. John Laffey, who passed away about a year and a half ago, about the age of 89 or so. Great guy. He's up in heaven. He's a great guy. Big believer, just a wonderful man. But he always wanted to eat peas out of a can. And my mother would have to go buy these peas out of a can for Thanksgiving on a weekly basis. Well, my father grew up so poor, with nothing, no clothes basically. Didn't have a real home. Cold water flat to cold water flat when his father didn't pay the rent. My grandfather, who I never met, who I guess was gassed in World War I. It was never the same. It was an alcoholic, and just terrible, right? So he always, that was his memory. He liked peas, and they were terrible, by the way. Peas in a can are terrible. But he loved them, and he always ate them. It was about him, you know. It was about his childhood. He just never got away from peas in a can. I mean, when the water, you know, the peas in the can that are in the water, and you take them out and you heat them up. It's like a wartime ration type thing. So I'm big into jelly cranberry sauce, and I think it's just we were a little upscale from canned peas growing up, but not much. And in fact, I've had many an argument. In fact, it must have been 2007. I was leaving office. We had lost the U.S. Senate race. I was in Rhode Island, and I remember one of the radio talk show hosts, Dan York, great guy. He had a whole show, and he was doing about cranberry sauce and how much he hated it. And there was an argument going on with the guy backing him up. It might have been Matt at the time. And I'm listening in, and I went home and put out a press release. I was still in office, so I guess I could put out a press release. I had my press secretary with me from the campaign. We typed something up. We sent it into the radio show. How much we loved cranberry sauce, especially jelly cranberry sauce, the kind that you get out of a can. If you're watching, you got to take a knife to get the stuff out and kind of push it out, and then you can slice the stuff. And we were part of that show too. So, but those are some of my, I have a lot of memories of growing up. In fact, Thanksgiving Day, everybody would be playing football. And football in Cranston, Rhode Island, it's not like Texas, but there's always a Cranston East, Cranston West. There are two public schools. Growing up, and I'd say probably at the age of 11 or 12, I started going to the games. And of course, we'd have to walk to go up there. It'd be 3 miles. Things that kids don't even think about doing. We walk all the way to the football game. The football game starts approximately 10:30 in the morning. So I'd go up there, and it'd be a great time because really it was a social event. Even at 11, you knew some of the older kids there. But we got there to the first game, Thanksgiving Day, and I didn't have any money. And I said I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money. And I think it was probably $1 to get in. Maybe it was 50 cents, but so it was like $5 today or $4 today. Still didn't have any. I didn't have that money. So we walked around outside the stadium, Mike Bello, myself, Sheridan, a bunch of guys, and somehow we just hopped under the fence. It was like a place near the baseball field. The baseball field was on one side of the stadium. And we hopped in underneath. I should say hopped in. We kind of crawled it underneath. And there it was. That was it for me. I wasn't going to pay for any more football games, even if I was the mayor, which I became years later. But every game, for year after year, we'd come back home, we'd go to the Thanksgiving football game, and we would find a way not to pay. 15, 16, when I had the money, had enough money to pay. Come home from college. Of course, come home from college, you're seeing all your high school friends, right? That's the purpose of the Thanksgiving game. Everybody's going to go. Everybody's going to meet at the Thanksgiving football game. You're not going to have your dinner till afterwards. And so even at business school and in college, I would bring people home. And in fact, I remember, both years at business school, my buddy Gary, who I haven't seen now in years, but Gary is from California. And he had nowhere to go. But he had a car, of course, and I had borrowed his car a number of times anyway. And I said, why don't you just come by the house, come down for the, we'll go home. We'll come. So we got in his car, we drove home, and we're going to have dinner later on at my family house, my mom and dad's house. And so I took him over to the Thanksgiving football game. And I don't know if he'd ever seen it. I mean, I don't know what they do in California. I don't know if you've seen an act like this, where he heads off before halftime with a couple of my buddies to the stadium bar. The bar's open on Thanksgiving Day. And, of course, I don't drink, so I'm not headed over to the bar. I'm just hanging out, with the guys I grew up with and the girls I grew up with and talking and moving around. You just move around the crowd on the east side. And, of course, you wouldn't even bother to go to the west side. I mean, why would you go to the west side? You don't know anybody at the west side. So I'd hang on the Cranston east side. And it just was it was just a lot of fun. So Gary, he comes back, and he's had too much to drink. He's not a guy who drinks a lot, but it's Thanksgiving Day. He's in business school. We go back to my house. We eat this giant meal. My mother makes this blackberry cream. I think the raspberry cream now my daughter Audrey was speaking about. Yeah, we got to get that going tonight. And I will pig out tomorrow. I will. But it's one of those situations where he just lies on his back in front of the TV set. Back when there's just a giant bulb, no cable, no nothing, just watching, I guess, whatever was on, probably the Detroit Lions playing somebody. And he's out. He's out cold, like for hours. I don't know. I should wake him. Finally, he wakes up. And we go back to Boston, back to business school, and we hang out. And then next year, I said, why don't you come back? So he comes back he comes back for both years. And and I remember being, for him, he's sort of like, for him, I think it was sort of strange, but it's the exact same playbook. We go to the exact same places. We sit the same place at the stadium. He leaves with the same guys, Hackett, Sarabian, whoever. They just leave, and they go over to the stadium pub, I guess that's what it's called, and they have a couple of drinks, whatever. He comes back to my house. We have the same exact meal. He lies in the same exact spot. He keels over, not keels over, he just gets comfortable, you know. He's been studying hard with second-year business school guys, and he conks out, takes a nice long 2 or 3, something you can't do during the school year, and he's out. And so we get him up, drives us back to business school, and that was you know, I mean, if I was at law school, it would have been 3 years of law school, right, instead of 2 years of business school. We would have come back to third year. We would have seen the same people. So as I get to be older, I don't go to the football game ever again, probably until I come home to live. In 01, and of course, what do I do on Thanksgiving morning? I grab the kids, I get my wife. I try to find a way not to pay. I actually go around the stadium. I let them pay. I go around and with some of my buddies. We find our way in, over the fence, under the fence, and then I don't pay. It's sort of like a thing. We're just not going to pay for the football game. Now, then I get to be mayor, and I guess I don't have to pay or whatever. I can't just go hopping fences. So there I am. I'm the mayor. But I'm sure, you know, tomorrow I will miss drastically now that I'm Colorado, because we don't have kids playing football, and there's no reason for me to go to the Fort Collins, Colorado football game. I'll be thinking probably about, you know, as a lot of people do, about my past and about Thanksgiving and what it's meant and all the great times I've had on Thanksgiving and so forth. But that's everybody has different memories of Thanksgiving. Mine, I go back to the Cranston Stadium many times, and the people I've gotten to see there again, and and of course, and we'll talk about this a little bit in probably the third section. But what Christmas has turned into back, you know, even take 2 generations, take on 10. People would, even 20, so say 30 years ago. Yeah, the day after Thanksgiving, Filene's Basement up in Boston would open up, and that's all I can remember. That people would go to Filene. It was a big department. I don't think it exists anymore. Big department store, and they'd go up there, and girls I know, people I know would go up to Filene. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go shopping. I'm going to buy another sweater that looks like I got one. I don't need another one. So they'd go back up there, and I guess the story of Filene's Basement, that people could be kind of rude. Nothing like you see today. I mean, people could elbow each other. Ladies would be like, "No, I got that sweater," because it'd be some really good sales. And it was the best time to buy something. I guess the day after Thanksgiving was the best time to buy something. So this whole thing built up. But we kind of got away from we've drastically gotten away from the real meaning of Thanksgiving. And we talk about it to Christmas time and so forth. But you know, Thanksgiving is about really the founding of our country and how hard people tried. And we'll go through, spend a long time going through it today. But that's really what it is. And it's forced me. It's great to do a show like this because it's forced me to go back and relook some stuff up that I not had forgotten. But, do people remember Bradford? Miles Standish. I know we got a Disney movie about some of this, but do they remember? Do they think back about, oh my gosh, how did these people live? Why'd they come here? How'd this nation start? Over what? Over religious liberty. And that's how they came. And now let's take a quick break. Oh, by the way, it's Steve Laffey at LaffeyRadio.com. We appreciate everybody who's liking us on Facebook. Appreciate the questions coming in. Laffey Radio at Facebook. Following us on Twitter. We put out a Laffey Minute every day during the week. Won't do one tomorrow on Thanksgiving Day. But we do it basically every day during a normal week. We get the Fixing America Presents. We've got a new one coming up. So take a look at that. We've got the shows we put right up into the YouTube and so forth, so you can watch them. You don't have to watch them live. But we're taking on, it's not today, we take on real serious situations and try to fix this great country. And we've got to start this movement right here. Today we're taking a Thanksgiving break, and we're taking to talk about the Thanksgiving, what it really means. We'll come back from a break. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We'll come back and see what the presidents of the United States recently have thought about Thanksgiving. Be right back.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plato and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey! The dreaded splash fight. It's Dad o'clock, and it's the best time of the day. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it. In the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. I go to school with your children. We say the Pledge of Allegiance together. You see me around the neighborhood and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger. This problem is closer than you think. My teacher tells me we can grow up to be whatever we want. I want to grow up to be someone who doesn't go to bed hungry. There's enough food in this country to feed everybody. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
On behalf of the Obama family, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, Bo, and me, I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. For us, like so many of you, this is a day full of family and friends, food, and football. It's a day to fight the overwhelming urge to take a nap, at least until after dinner. But most of all, it's a time to give thanks for each other and for the incredible bounty we enjoy in this country.
Steve Laffey here. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. And we're doing a special Thanksgiving show. We're not trying to solve all the problems of the world today. We're not trying to fix everything. We're just doing a special Thanksgiving show. And we thought we'd come back and hear what some of the presidents of the United States recently have said about Christmas. And maybe there's some difference between some of the presidents we have and had in the last 20 or 30 years and their thoughts on Thanksgiving. If I say Christmas, I'm sorry. One of the reasons I'm starting to talk about Christmas already is that my house is playing Christmas music already. And I'm against it, but I lost the battle on this one. They just put it on, and this year my wife decided that since Thanksgiving came late, today's the 27th, Thanksgiving's tomorrow, and we want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And hopefully your travels go well. I know there's some storms going through the country at the time you guys are traveling out there, but hopefully everything's going well. People are getting their planes and getting where they need to be and being with family and so forth. And then we're talking about the meaning of Thanksgiving, what people really thought about it. But there's President Obama. So for him, as he addresses the country, and it's not trying to make fun, this is just the way he thinks. You know, President Obama is thinking it's about taking a big nap and watching some football games and getting together with the family and taking another nap. And you almost can't believe that the lack of seriousness, whether it's foreign policy or the way he just thinks about how we should address the people of America. And I tell you, there is an undercurrent in America, people who are so sick of this. And they don't know what to do. It's why I made the movie Fixing America, which is at fixingamerica.com. They don't know what to do because they do feel like they're alone. And they hear stuff like that and just goes in one ear and out the next. But it is contributing to the fact that we've forgotten about Thanksgiving, and we've forgotten about the Pilgrims, and the Puritans, and the Separatists, and Bradford, and even a guy named John Robinson. who no one knows who he is. In fact, he never made it over to this country. But one of the reasons in the late 1500s that anybody even came here. And we'll talk about that. But let's think about these presidents. That's Barack Obama, and I'm not trying. We didn't try to pick a clip of him because he said so many great things on Thanksgiving and gave a memorial mass somewhere. We didn't pick out the worst. That's just what he thinks. That's his thought about Christmas. He's going to take a long nap. He didn't mention golf, thankfully, but he plays a lot of golf as president. I can't believe, by the way, these presidents get so much. How much free time do you have? But his idea is to take a long nap, and that's just the way it is. I wonder, let's look back at some other presidents. Let's even go back. Let's go back to Bush. What did George Bush, 2003, with the Iraq War going on and so forth? And what is Bush? Does he think it's time to take a nap? Let's take it out.
We're pleased you're joining us for one of our nation's great holidays, a chance to give thanks to the Almighty for the many blessings we received. Particularly proud to be with the 1st Armored Division, the 2nd ACR, and the 82nd Airborne. I can't think of a finer group of folks to have Thanksgiving dinner with than you all. We're proud of you. Today, Americans are gathering with their loved ones to give thanks for the many blessings in our lives. And this year, we are especially thankful for the courage and the sacrifice of those who defend us, the men and women of the United States military.
So there's a whole different contrast, and everybody knows that I am not the biggest fan of George Bush and his presidency. I remain the only elected, according to Craig Shirley, Republican at the time, running for higher office, but a sitting elected Republican to be attacked by the National Republican Party and George Bush through Karl Rove and Ken Mehlman and Liddy Dahl with millions of dollars against me. But that's not the point. The point is, you can hear two different speeches. What does George Bush do? And I was with George Bush, it must be a month ago now. Yeah, I flew down to Dallas, Texas. Wonderful lady invited me down. I was about 60 years, had dinner with him. And really a great guy in many respects. Not a great president. No. And still trying to just... I guess that's why you write books after you've been in office. You write them just to say, no, we were always right. We were never wrong. We were always right. We never made a mistake. But what's he talking about? What does he do on Thanksgiving? Well, this is why he's a good guy. I mean, policy difference aside, and he's not a conservative, and he Medicare Part D and No Child Left. I've read a book called Primary Mistake. But what does he do? Sneaks out in the middle of the night, leaves his family, flies all the way to Iraq to have dinner with the troops. I mean, we loved him for it, right? I mean, it's just a great thing to do. It's wonderful. It's leadership. And he's not asking people to eat, by themselves without their family. He'll go join them. Now we know he's the president. We know he can't do it every Thanksgiving. We know it won't be a sneak. He'll be in more dangers. We can't do it every year and get on a plane and fly into Iraq or other dangerous places in the world. We understand that. He's got to be protected. He's got to be on Air Force One. So forth. But he talks about the Almighty. He's thanking the Almighty. He's thanking God. He talks about the families are getting together to give thanks to God. So there's two different, there's two different situations going on. There's the nap, there's the football game, and there's the nap and more napping, and then you've got George Bush on a plane. This is just, the two most recent presidents. That's what they think about this. And it couldn't be more like night and day. Don't get me wrong. You can take a nap on Thanksgiving, and you can watch the football games, and I will. I'm sure the Packers are playing Detroit tomorrow. I'll watch, even though one of the guys is hurt, quarterback's hurt. But what do you emphasize in front of the people of America so they'll remember something? That's the difference. Well, maybe let's take a look at Clinton. I'm sure Bill Clinton, more like president before. Let's see, what does he have to say about Thanksgiving?
I want to thank the National Turkey Federation for once again donating this year's Tom Turkey. This is the 8th I've had the privilege to meet and set free in the Rose Garden. I'm told that Jerry the turkey traveled all the way here from Wisconsin, proving that the cheese state is about more than good cheese. Also, I might add, about a very well-behaved turkey. Tomorrow we will celebrate the first Thanksgiving of the new millennium and the last one of our presidency. As Hillary and Chelsea and I sit down to our dinner, we will give special thanks for the privilege it has been to live here and to serve for the last 8 years.
So Bill Clinton is pardoning the turkey, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. He's thanking the people of Wisconsin because, you know, he's talking about Wisconsin, which is not just the cheese. But he's really thanking about the fact he's been in office. And these presidents are sort of the secular presidents in many respects. They just leave out God, even though it's so important to so many people. And so many people still do know why Thanksgiving's important. And then you've got George Bush. So it's not really, I mean, it looks to be a Democrat-Republican so far thing, but maybe we'll go back before. We don't have anything from George Bush the first, but what about Reagan? What did Reagan think about Thanksgiving? How did he talk to the people back in the 80s? Let's take a look. Reagan here.
Thank you, Pat, and good morning, everyone. You know, the Statue of Liberty and this wonderful holiday called Thanksgiving go together naturally because although as Americans we have many things for which to be thankful, none is more important than our liberty. Liberty, that quality of government, that brightness of mind and spirit for which the Pilgrim Fathers braved the seas and Americans through 2 centuries have laid down their lives. Today, while religion is suppressed in perhaps 1/3 of the world, we Americans are free to worship the Almighty as we choose. While entire nations must endure the yoke of tyranny, we are free to speak our minds, to enjoy an unfettered and vigorous press, and to make government abide by the limits we deem just. While millions live behind walls, we remain free to travel throughout the land, to share this precious day with those we love most deeply, the members of our families. My fellow Americans, let us keep this Thanksgiving Day sacred. Let us thank God for the bounty and goodness of our nation. And as a measure of our gratitude, let us rededicate ourselves to the preservation of this, the land of the free and the home of the brave. From the Reagan family to your family, happy Thanksgiving and God bless you all.
Now, there's a Thanksgiving address. That's vastly different than Clinton or President Obama. I mean, he's talking about the sacred liberties, like my daughter talked about at the beginning of the show. He's talking about people laying down their lives. I mean, he's at the Statue of Liberty, I guess, when he did this. This is 2003. He goes back to the Pilgrims. I mean, we got to go back to the Pilgrims. And they're alive. And remember how they did. How did this come about? How did any of this come about? It's one of the great stories of all time. How they came to this new world. And you got to go back to the 1570s. And we'll go to that at the end of the show. But we got to remember that. I mean, no joking aside, it's terribly important that we remember where we came from. But Reagan, I mean, he's a religious guy. He wants to make sure that we remember about that this is a part, and that was the first, and we got it right here. We're going to read it later on in the show. But remember, the Mayflower Compact was the first attempt at this. I mean, the first attempt, we used to say God, King, People, right? Under King James, or even Elizabeth before James. And then it became God and people and then the king. It was the first time they twisted it around. In the name of God, amen. God. We, this is the people, whose names are underwritten. Then they mentions the loyal subjects of the dread, sovereign Lord King James. They twisted it around for the first time. Amazing. Well, it's Steve Laffey. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We're at LaffeyRadio.com. We're having a Thanksgiving special. I wore my Thanksgiving shirt, brought a couple of the kids in, and we appreciate everything you're doing out there. We want you to have a great Thanksgiving. We're going to take a quick break. Right now, we'll be right back in a couple of minutes.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs, the Rhode Island Society of CPAs, and the Ad Council.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's like tiny nails in the air poke my lungs. I start to cough. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
Today, 1 out of 13 children suffer from some form of asthma, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all emergency room visits.
I feel like I'm choking. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. A little whistle sound comes out when I breathe.
But while your child may suffer from asthma doesn't have to make your child suffer. There are simple ways you can prevent your child's next attack. To learn more, log on to www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
I am an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place this first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
Today it's Thanksgiving, so that means it's Madden time.
Hey folks, John Madden here. You know, every Thanksgiving I make a turducken where I put a chicken into a duck into a turkey, yada yada. I mean, you've heard it all before. But this year, since we're down in Dallas, I'm going Tex-Mex on your cabezas. I mean, I took the whole thing and put it right inside of a tortilla, right there. I mean, you put a little cheese on there, right there, a little cheese right there, cheese, a little more cheese. Put this. I mean, where do you get things like this? Anyway, and you know what that's called? A turducken-dia. I just make that up. You know what I'm thankful for, though? Kids who pay $60 each year for what is essentially the same video game. I'm kidding. I'm thankful for football.
Steve Laffey here. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. Thanks for tuning back in with us here. That was John Madden. It wasn't John Madden, actually. That's as you watch football. I think John Madden still does this. He takes, I think there'll be some kind of event tomorrow where he'll take a turkey and a duck and something else and mix them together and award it to somebody. And he's just a funny guy. Great football coach, by the way, at the Oakland Raiders, and a great announcer. We, if you're watching football, you miss him because he didn't take himself so seriously like many of the people do. They think we're really watching the football game to know every X and O and so forth, and who's on the injured reserve list. When really we just want to have a good time for a couple hours and just relax and watch great play. Great play speaks for itself. But that's what Christmas. It's Christmas. I keep saying Christmas because they're playing the Christmas music in the house. That's what Thanksgiving, what's it really turned into? I mean, it's turned into a shopping disaster. We played some clips from presidents. Let's go back and read one. We don't have a clip from, it's too long ago, but what do you think about Abraham Lincoln? This is the way they change history, by the way, now. The Gettysburg Address was 150 years old a little while back. And they had different people read the Gettysburg Address. And they had President Obama read it. And he left out the part about God. But listen to Lincoln, who cites God all the time. In the midst of the Civil War, Lincoln proclaimed a national Thanksgiving Day, because Thanksgiving wasn't every year, by the way. I mean, Washington brought it back, and then, by the way, Jefferson didn't think that was a good idea, so he didn't have it under Jefferson, and you can go through the history. Heck, Minnesota started celebrating Thanksgiving in 1850. You can go through the whole list of this stuff. But listen to what he says during the war. This is 63, during the Civil War, where so many hundreds of thousands were killed. In part, it says, quote, this is Lincoln, "I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea, and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficial Father who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him," this is to God, "for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also with humble penitence for our national perseverance in disobedience, commend to his," with a capital H, "tender care, all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife for which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation, and restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union." And I think our speaking ability over the years is going down. I don't think anybody can say that. I mean, no one's even going to read it on a radio show in America today. Too many references to God and being subservient to God. Too many references. You just don't. People don't do it. They won't do it. Here's what they'll do instead. I mean, here's what's going on today. I mean, here's what goes on. Here's an ad from Kohl's, by the way. Listen to this. This is the new thing about Thanksgiving. It's all about shopping.
12 a.m. till hours till morning. Been online since yesterday. Breath smells better. I need coffee. 500 early bird specials. Not today. It's Black Friday. Black Friday. Gotta go to Kohl's on Black Friday. Everybody's going there at midnight. Midnight. Black Friday. Black Friday. Something that rhymes with Friday. But done. I'll be done with this. Let's buy the weekend. Get $15 Kohl's cash for every 50 you spend. Open Thursday at midnight. Can't get this darn song out of my head.
And I'm not going to be able to get out of my head. We went through these clips to get ready for the show. That's maybe the third time I've heard this, and I got to play another song when I go upstairs, because it's that. I was watching TV. It was today's Wednesday. It was like Sunday, and they would start advertising for all the stores that are going to open up now on Thanksgiving Day, and not all of them, by the way. And I'm going to be looking for the ones open on Thanksgiving Day, and I'm not going there. And I'm going to be telling people, this is what we have to do. It's like buying American. Tell them we're not going there. How can you make people come? There's got to be a couple of days where nobody has to work. Just a couple of days. Forget about getting back to Lincoln's address in '63 about a Thanksgiving for the country. Forget about that. We just got to go back just a little bit where it's not open on Thanksgiving, because when I was a kid, it'd be like 5 o'clock on Friday morning to be this early thing. And it was only like at Filene's Basement. Most people were still closed. Open at regular hours, I suppose. And then it got all the way to midnight. So you got a midnight. Now, at least it's Friday. But Thanksgiving open at 6 o'clock at night? How can this be? How can you mistreat your workers? They don't, believe me, they don't want to be there. Some have to be there. They're getting overtime. That, it's a holiday and so forth. You get double time and whatever. But they don't want to be there, and we should make them be there. What kind of company would make people come in on Thanksgiving? Now, if you work in a hospital, you got to go in. Understood. You're driving an ambulance for the city. Great. We appreciate you doing that. And you do make more money. And we got to have cops on the beat. Someone draws the short straw. And our country is being defended. And people understood. But at Kohl's, that's their idea? It's amazing. It's just amazing what's happened. And you only have to go back so far. I mean, how far back do you really have to go to find where we had this, we played a clip from Reagan, okay? Even before Reagan. Look at, here's even Charles Schultz, not even. Charles Schultz, who gave us, Linus and so forth, and Charlie Brown, and Christmas specials and so forth. Listen to what they play on Linus every year. We're going to play this tonight at our house.
What's all the commotion? We've got another holiday to worry about. It seems Thanksgiving Day is upon us.
I haven't even finished eating all my Halloween candy.
Sally, Thanksgiving is a very important holiday. Ours was the first country in the world to make a national holiday to give thanks.
Isn't he the cutest thing?
What are you going to do on Thanksgiving, Charlie Brown?
My mother and Dad and Sally and I are all going over to my grandmother's for dinner.
Why don't you come along, Linus? We could hold hands under the table.
But there's Linus through Charles Schultz and through a show that's been on for, I don't know, probably 40 years. And everybody will watch it. We have the DVD of it now. It'll probably come on. I haven't checked the listings. I'm sure it's going to be on tonight or tomorrow. And we'll watch it. But there was a spirit of like at least letting kids know. At least letting them know what Thanksgiving, that we were the first country, the only country to give thanks to, like the way we do on Thanksgiving. And even the commercials that played, I played you a Kohl's commercial, but the country has changed so much in 1.5, 2 generations. Listen to 1974. Remember Little House on the Prairie? Remember Melissa Gilbert? Listen to her do an ad for Butterball Turkey.
Want me to teach you about the holidays? Yeah. Well, all these people come over and you have to kiss them. And Aunt Martha brings this yucky yellow salad with marshmallows all over it. And Aunt Ruth always cries. Why does she cry? I don't know. She just does. But for dinner, we always have a butterball. But Mom said we're going to have turkey.
And there's the kid at the end. You know, it's a great ad, by the way. You know, they probably should play it. They play these retro ads. People would be craving for it. They'd love to get the butterball turkey. And I guess the key to the butterball turkey, well, one, it had the thing that popped out, so your mother didn't have to like stick something in on those pieces of metal to see how the temperature was going. It just pops out when it was done. You just kind of turn the light on, or open the oven door. There it was. And but now the commercials aren't like that at all. But I think there's a real thirst in this country, not just for commercials, but to return to a great reawakening that has to happen in our country of why we're actually here. And it isn't about shopping. I mean, we got a little mashup here. This is Kim Kardashian, and she doesn't say this all. Someone put the words together in her mouth, but this is basically the modern day 20-year-olds Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It's me, Kim K. Thanksgiving is one of my top 8 favorite holidays, guys, and I'm here to tell you why. A long time ago, Christopher Columbus came to the United States before there were planes. He was so nice to the Indians that they had a big dinner and he saved the savages. These were the violent kind of Indians. Gandhi wasn't president of the Indians yet, so you can only imagine how wild they were. Columbus and the rest of the Jewish people brought great food, but the Indians brought a bunch of curry and weird spices that gave the good guys hot stomach, which made the white people mad. Today, we have many more clothing stores, BMWs, and edible foods that all humans can eat because of Thanksgiving. This is why we give thanks on this great day.
So that's not really Kim Kardashian, but it's her voice, and they put together the voices. But that's really how little people understand about Thanksgiving. You know, I noticed this when I was the mayor of Cranston, and kids would come in from the high school every year, all the time. You know, we do Black History Month with them, and we have them in the city hall chambers. But kids would come in for different reasons. Some were not rioting, but protesting out in front. I had to go out and meet them, and I talked to them. And I was just shocked year after year how little that they knew about history. How much were they really taught? How many of our children know how Thanksgiving came about? And how people struggled to the point where how many people died? Most of them died. I mean, the Pilgrims in the first year, there was 101 people who got to our country. There's like 45 left a year later. Do people realize? We'll go through this the whole next break. We got to take one more break. Come back with the present day view of a clip of the present day view of Thanksgiving, and then we're going to go into really the meaning of Thanksgiving in the last segment. It's Steve Laffey. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We're at LaffeyRadio.com. We appreciate everybody liking it. The likes are growing. That's great. We follow the stuff on Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Laffey Radio. And the thing's expanding. So we appreciate all that you're doing out there. We just thought we'd take a time to really remember Thanksgiving. We don't have to do a show like everybody else. You don't have to yell and scream about our elected officials. Don't have to take the right or the left. We can just fix problems here at LaffeyRadio.com. It's Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We'll take one more break and be right back.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages.
Picture this, your next trip, Utah, 5 national parks. First, Zion. You're walking, the ground rises, the ground drops, the ground becomes water. Next, Rice. You're riding a mule. You're riding a mule under giant orange drip castles. You are not dreaming. You will not forget this. On to Capitol Reef. Take the scenic route, the really scenic route. Take a path you've never taken and see the stars for the first time. Now for Canyonlands. You're riding a bike. You're riding a bike on Mars. Now you're riding the rapids. Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, Classic. Arches, 5:32 a.m. Some things are worth racing the sunrise for. The horizon lightens. You round the corner. Whoa. This is Life Elevated. The Mighty 5. 5 iconic parks, 1 epic experience. Plan your trip at visitutah.com.
Training is about more than muscle. It's about inner strength. So I push myself. That's why I serve in the United States Coast Guard. I train with the best. A team that shares my drive and commitment. We collect intelligence, guard our shores against drug smugglers, and keep our waterways safe, because our nation expects more.
If you expect more, maybe you were born ready. Find out at GoCoastGuard.com.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait, hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew. Wait. Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
Bargain hunters behaving badly, and in some cases, criminally. A rash of incidents put a black eye on Black Friday, one of the biggest shopping days of the year. At this Los Angeles area Walmart, witnesses say one woman used pepper spray to make her way through a crowd.
A woman in a black hoodie decided to wave out and spray at the same time some pepper spray.
The woman then paid for her merchandise and left the store. And in Fayetteville, North Carolina, gunshots were fired at a mall as shoppers arrived for early morning sales. No one was hurt. What's behind the bad behavior? One psychologist says it's the current economy meeting competitive instincts.
Steve Laffey here. Steve Laffey's Fixing America at LaffeyRadio.com. We appreciate you tuning in the day before Thanksgiving 2013. That's a clip of last year's Thanksgiving and the disasters around the country, where you will see the clips. And you'll see, even though the clips were played this year, seemingly the same hundreds of thousands of people around the country, millions of people literally, are going to stand in line to get what? To get... I don't even know what's the big gift. What's the big thing for Christmas? I don't know. I don't do any of this. And you don't have to either. No one has to be brought kicking and screaming into the materialist world that Christmas is all about these presents. No one has to say to their kids, sure, Johnny, whatever you want. My kids think, we played Melissa Gilbert, they think Little House on the Prairie is still on. I hadn't told them. We just DVR it. put it on, and we fast forward through the commercials. And what's wrong with that? I got no apologies to make. What are the shows they could be watching? One of the things that irritates me to no end, and you see people on TV talking about this all the time, the people on TV, whether they're movie stars or guys who run, the Today Show, they'll say, oh, our kids, and how do we control our kids? What do you mean, how do you just control them? I mean, in a nice, in a God-fearing way, but make sure they're not doing this kind of stuff. We don't have any video games in the house. It's a total waste of time. I mean, video games are a treat when you get to a movie, and before you get to the movie, there's a game of Millipede over on the left, or what's it called, Pac-Man. Those are like treats. I mean, you don't have to go back and play Pong. If you go way back, you remember the original game was Pong. My buddy Kevin DeLue had it at the house, and we all rushed over to play Pong at his house. It was a thing that went back and forth, back. It was mind-numbing now that I think about it, but it was the advent of technology. What a disaster. How about these games that people are going to be rushing out to buy, these war games, as if they're really in war? They're not. You're not. It's really people over in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places who have really been in wars for us, and they've died. Why are you trying to replicate it? Why are we replicating high-speed car chases and people shooting each other? What does that teach kids? And we as parents have to stop it. Got to go back to the Butterball commercial. There's got to be this new reawakening, and one of the things that would cause a reawakening is actually understanding where we came from. You look back on the late 1500s. So picture yourself in the late 1500s, and people talk about God, and it's a Church of England, okay? And over in Spain, they're forcing people who are Protestants to become Catholics, and these people called the Huguenots over in France, and they're being tortured and killed for like 100 years starting in the 1500s. And they're fleeing to different places. And then you've got these guys, a guy named Bradford. He's a teenager. It's the late 1500s. His parents basically kick him out of the house because they're scared, because he's for the Puritans. The Bible, which up until previous to Queen Elizabeth, you can't have one. You can't have a Bible. Or they'll burn you at the stake. They don't want you reading the Bible. But finally, Queen Elizabeth relaxes that. People get some Bibles. They're starting to read them. They're reading the true Word of God for themselves, not with a priest standing backwards, like I've seen, by the way, in Austria. Still do it that way in Austria, at St. Stephen's Chapel. They stand backwards and do it in Latin when no one even speaks Latin. So here they are. They got some Bibles. And now there's a King James, but he's not quite the king yet. He's up in Scotland. He's been trained by these religious people, and they think, oh, this is going to be great. He's the guy who's going to bring about this real change. But then James is not like this at all. He's a great oppressor. And he puts people in jail. And he has them tortured. And he leaves them to starve. Then you get these people up at Scrooby Manor. It's like halfway between Edinburgh and London. So it's in the middle of England. Middle of nowhere when you think. People have to walk to get there. And they're holding their own services in there. And they're reading the actual Bible themselves and trying to make hay with it for themselves, not relying on a priest. They're the first non-denominational evangelicals, I guess. And they're called Puritans because they want to be pure. And some of them throw in the towel. And they say, you know what? They're never going to get it here in England. We've got to separate from them. And they're called the separatists, right? So that's how they get their name. So Bradford, who's like a teenager, he's living with this guy Brewster and their family. There's a guy named John Robinson, not the football coach at USC from 30 years ago. This guy Robinson, and they were all learning, and they decide they've got to go to the one country where they're not going to be persecuted, and that's in Holland. And how do they get there? Think about it. They can't get there. They don't know how to get there. It's illegal to go there. They can't get out of the country. And there's an ocean to go across. It's a good half-day sail on a big boat. So they hired, the first time they try to get across, they get an English captain. The English captain takes their money. They sell all their possessions. And he turns them in. He sails back in and turns them in. They all go to jail. Some get out. They don't have to do with all these families. They set them back to go back home, but they have no home. They've sold their home. Can we imagine any of this? First of all, there's no running water, right? There's no bathrooms. Like, think about this. Everybody stinks to high heaven, but they got this thing that they want to do. They want to worship themselves and not be persecuted. So they do make it to Holland. The second time they go, they get a Dutch ship captain. I forget his name. I don't know if anybody knows his name. He takes them over, but He's got some people on the boat and some people are on the land in a small skiff, and the tide's going out. And they get left behind. And just picture the English people coming after them, capturing Robinson and some of the wives, and they don't make it. So the captain says, we got to go. So he takes some of the people, they separate them from their families, thinking they'll never see them again. This is a true story. No one has to make this up. Why is there not a movie about this playing this Thanksgiving? You know, we can see people with knives capturing other people, killing each other. Movies that play in big theaters now have almost nothing to do with stuff like this. The real history of Thanksgiving. So the people get captured, the wives and the children who are not strong enough, that's still in this boat, they finally get out, and over the years to come, they make it over there. And it gets to be like 1608. They're finally over there in Holland, but they realize that around 1621 or so, all this is going to end for them. They work hard. The people in Holland love them. The Puritans are hardworking people. Their groups grow to 300. And they say, wait a second, this is not going to last forever. They're going to come in and persecute us. The treaty is going to be over between, I think it's Holland and Spain. So now they say, we got to go to the New World. So they figure out a couple of ships. They buy a ship. And again, they get screwed. They buy a ship that leaks. The guys make the mast too tall on purpose so it leaks. So they meet up with the Mayflower where they got these two ships. The other ship is going to be one that they catch fish with and send it back and have a livelihood, have a living over there. They got to make a decision. First of all, now not everybody can go to America. They take 100 people out of how many people wanted to go. They leave a great deal of people behind. Bradford, who becomes the leader over there, along with Miles Standish, the military leader, he leaves behind a 3-year-old kid that he thinks, and I don't know, I guess he thinks he's never going to see him again. But to get religious freedom, to be able to worship, they get in this little boat, the Mayflower. Don't take the big boat, which is taken on water. They sell that boat for half of what they paid for it, the other boat. They get in the Mayflower, and they land in November. Everything gets delayed. There's 66 days on a 21-day ship, a 21-day voyage. They get there, and it's like 66 days because of the bad weather. And now the guys go on. Bradford has a wife. His wife comes. They leave a 3-year-old behind. He goes on. He stays on board. People are sick. His wife falls overboard and dies. He gets back to the ship. His wife is dead. He has to remarry someone because only about 40 people make it through the first year. And of course, they realize, they start off with this collectivist view. Everybody's working the same amount of land, like Russia, like the Soviet Union. And people are starving because they run into, in fact, it's quoted in Bradford's book all the time. I mean, here's what happened the first year. The communal sharing and the social altruism that happens, the less industrious members came late to work in the fields. They were slow and easy in their labors. And so by the time Thanksgiving comes around, the first Thanksgiving, they don't have much food. People are dying. By the way, women are dying in droves, and guess why? Because of the cold weather, they're putting the kids underneath them for warmth. They are the house. People are really doing this over one reason: religious liberty. That's it. And a small group of people. Think about it. God must make it so that a small group of people can do a lot of work, because there's like 40 of them by the end of the first year. And Bradford has to marry another lady whose husband has died, and she lives a long time. And how they live a long time, some of these people, I don't know. They finally get their act together and decide to pass out plots of land and work it individually. And guess what? Huge harvest. Huge harvest comes to them. And so that's Thanksgiving. That's what really happened. And we're running out of time. And we thank them, and we thank God for Thanksgiving. Remember this tomorrow morning. It's Steve Laffey. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. That's the real story of Thanksgiving. All that work done by some great people who worked for 20, 30 years to get to Northern Virginia, they thought, and start a great country. And we'll be back right after the holiday break. Steve Laffey, Steve Laffey's Fixing America. God bless you. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to Steve Laffey's Fixing America radio program on the Laffey Radio Network. Fixing America is broadcast Monday through Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. right here at www.laffeyradio.com. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or account of this broadcast without the express written consent of Laffey Network, LLC is prohibited.